On this episode of our Axis and Allies Global 1942nd Edition tutorial series, we're going to talk about the destroyer, the counterpart to the submarine. As I mentioned in the submarine part, destroyers are effectively anti-submarine ships. They counter every single ability a submarine has. That's their primary use. Their other is to be an advanced meat shield. These, unlike submarines, can always shoot at air units, and air units can always shoot at these. Now, what I mean is, if you have one battleship and 6 submarines, if I fly in there with a couple airplanes, only that battleship's going to be able to fire back. It can only defend itself. So those air units are going to be able to sink that battleship without having to go through all the subs, without having to go through those meat shields. If instead you had destroyers, those planes would have to sink the destroyers first before they can touch the battleship. But moving on. Destroyer's basic stats are as follows. It costs 8 IPCs to build. It has a movement value of 2. And it attacks and defends at a 2. So it's a pretty solid unit. It's pretty comparable to an artillery of the sea, I suppose. These are extremely useful, even as like blockers. So what do I mean by a blocker? Let's go over to the map and we'll set up an example here. All right, so let's say Japan wants to get over here to Hawaii. They're able to do this because they have a naval base, which buffs their movement of all their ships to 3. So they would go 1, 2, 3. So if the American player wanted to stop this, all you'd have to do is park a destroyer right here. And Japan would be able to go 1, 2, but they had to stop here and fight this destroyer before they'd be able to do anything else. If you had a submarine there, they don't really block things. If you have transport here, it doesn't block anything either unless they choose to attack it. So destroyers, very good blockers. It's always advisable to have a wall of destroyers just to limit the movement of enemy fleets. Ground units operate in a similar way, or well, infantry and tanks do. You use your infantry to block tanks from blitzing. It's the same concept. Units that like destroyer, or countries that like destroyers. The United States and the UK absolutely adore destroyers. Typically because they're good at countering anything. You know, they can still fight against air units. They can fight against naval units. They have the versatility, and that's what the Allies really like. Germany only likes destroyers if they're going heavy into their navy. Of course, again, I don't really like Sea Lion, and I don't really like building a bunch of ships in the Mediterranean as Germany. I just see it as, I see there are better options instead of that. But it's something you could do. France is irrelevant. The Soviet Union, don't ever build ships with them. Italy likes destroyers as well. Maybe not as much as they like submarines, but destroyers are very useful for them. I would build several if you can afford it. China can't build any ships. Australia can do with a good couple of destroyers. I wouldn't build a tremendous amount of them, but they're nice to help, just to be blockers for the U.S., if nothing else. Japan can make great use of destroyers. You can buy a lot of time with their making a bunch of blockers. Destroyers are just an all-around really good unit. I would build tons of them. I wouldn't have a major fleet without a destroyer in it. You know, they're just very, very versatile. They should be one of your most built ships. Definitely one of your most built combat ships. Like, battleships are cool, but battleships by themselves are vulnerable without something to help them.